Welcome, everybody, to another week of Make It Make Sense with me, Matthew Moody, and my co host.
Nicola Cairncross.
What have I been up to this week? Well, it's another week of madness in the UK. For anyone experiencing it right now, where to start. But in terms of me personally, knee deep in property refurbishment, effectively, just getting another property back on the market so it can be rented out to a tenant. This is an interesting property I'm doing actually because it was actually what's known as a rent back property, which is now
Rent back.
illegal because
Yeah.
of multiple horrible people that took advantage of rent back tenants. But funnily enough, this one has been rented by the same couple for 15, 18 years, a long time, maybe even 20 years. So it actually goes to show that when done properly, property investment can work and everyone can benefit. And the only reason this couple decided to move is because they wanted to move further north, which who can blame them? Because the north's where it's all happening, right?
Is it? Yes.
So yeah, just
So
been
rent back being where someone sells their property and then rents it back.
yeah, effectively, and they have a
Okay.
different type of tenancy, really, which gives them a bit more protection. This is an interesting point in law, actually, although it may not be for our viewers. But interestingly, any type of agreement that you have outside of the normal assured short-hold tenancy, it doesn't matter what it is, after 6 months, it always reverts back to an AST. It doesn't matter what it is, a license
Okay.
agreement, some type of commercial agreement, even a rent back agreement. After a while, it reverts back. But yeah, effectively, it was a way of people that got into difficulties essentially being able to get out of that difficulty and rent their house back on a lower level. Uh, I don't know if they cleaned at all during 20 odd years that they were there, but there's,
Really? Oh
there's a little
God.
bit of work involved.
Oh
That,
no.
and it's one of those things where, you got on a paintbrush on a wall and you're thinking, has this actually ever been painted? Because I think this used to be white, but it actually looks brown.
Oh gosh. Well, there's
Yeah.
smokers as well.
It could have been at some point, difficult to say. Not recently, but yeah,
Okay.
at some
So it
point. But
didn't smell too bad then. It was just generally murky and grubby
yeah,
and
and I think just the people that lived there, in my opinion, were just very, very lazy because, discovering things such as, when you've got kids and they're young, you put on these kind of stair rails, don't you, to stop them going up and down the stairs. Well, this couple must be in their 60s. They're still
yeah.
there, little
Oh
things
God.
onto the stairs. They've never taken them off.
That's so weird, isn't it? 'Cause
So,
they're quite difficult to navigate those stairs.
well, yeah, I mean, they've taken off the bars, but the attachments, the brackets, all still there.
Oh,
Just
right. Okay. Nice. I've
madness.
got to put my
Yeah.
hand up here and say that I am really someone who never cleans. I'm very tidy, but I never clean. But I do pay a cleaner because I am very picky about my environment. But I just don't see it mostly, mainly because I wear contact lenses, and when you take your contact lenses out, you don't see a thing. So, but I do have a cleaner who comes regularly. She's absolutely amazing, and she really keeps the place spotless. So,
I think that's one of the key things, isn't it, about in the modern world, if you can do it, is two first things to outsource is your cleaning and
yeah,
then some type of PA or VA because they are
yeah,
worth their
absolutely.
weight in gold. So
Yeah, they
yeah,
are.
I absolutely agree with you, 100%.
Because I fret if it's untidy or dirty, but I don't. I'm actually not that good at doing it. And also, it's time that I could be doing something more productive. So
So yeah,
yeah,
so I've been doing that and then have been delving further into this whole kind of new type of business thing I'm looking to kick off in the consulting world, which is quite interesting. I've been
well,
reading a
that
few
sounds
little
exciting.
different books actually, which are quite cool. I've rediscovered a few authors that I've read their books before and followed them online, and actually have some new books coming out, which I may consider getting, to be honest. But that's
Yeah.
that's been quite interesting.
The
Just
best book I've ever read on building a consulting business is $1 Million Consulting, and it's not a cheap book. I think it was about 60 or 70 quid, but it might have been 60 or $70, but it was worth its weight in gold. From the whole thing about how to think about it, how to negotiate your fees, how to set up the initial call.
yeah.
Absolutely brilliant. $1 Million Consulting. I can't remember who it was by now, but I can find it easy enough.
Yeah, I think. I have definitely heard of it. The issue is because I got quite a lot of books in storage still.
Yeah. Oh, you might have
I'm
it
not sure if
already.
I have it or not, but I
Well,
don't know.
when you go to reorder things on Amazon, they often tell you if you've ordered it before, which is quite
And
handy.
I know, but I'm talking about I have books pre-Amazon. This
Oh,
is the
okay.
thing, right?
Pre-Amazon books, right? Real books.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I got a trunk of books from when I studied theology, right? I have like 1,500 theology books, some of which
Good
date
God.
back to the 18th century. So I have a few books.
A bit of books of truth, in other words, ones that haven't been changed.
Well, quite, yes. That's a very interesting. Yes, indeed, indeed.
I
Yeah.
saw someone renovating a property on YouTube yesterday, and she came across about like 50 encyclopedias,
Oh,
and
yeah.
the house hadn't been touched for over 100 years. So I was thinking, whoa, that is a treasure trove of truth. That is.
Yeah, I mean, you remember when you used to have the Britannia salespeople round to try and sell your mum and dad an
Yeah.
encyclopedia back in the day, and that was a thing. I mean, you talk to like a youngster nowadays, they'd be like, what are you talking about? What? Someone
Yeah.
came around the house to sell you like 20 books. It's like, yeah, they did.
Yeah,
And a lot
and
of
then
people bought them.
and you could go to the library and you could look anything up in a set of encyclopedias and it would be there. It would cover everything. It was amazing.
I know. This is going to turn into one of those nostalgia shows, isn't it? I fear if we
No,
go down
it's not.
that
No,
route.
because we're about to talk about AI, so it's not going to turn into a
Oh,
nostalgia
okay.
fest.
Fair enough. So what have you been up to this week?
Well, I've been doing all the usual stuff, creating content, turning it into audio, turning it into video, turning video into text, all the usual stuff, backwards and forwards. I have mastered going live now. I had a real mental block about it, but I'm now able to, because it kept going wrong and that kept throwing me just before I was about to go live. So the tech kept going wrong. And one day I sat down and I just thought, I'm going to make a simple note of everything that happens step by step here. And I'm not naturally a process driven person, but I do like them once I get them. And I found out it was literally a thank you page that was being generated by Zoom that was throwing up an error message. And it didn't actually need that. It was already working, but it didn't need the thank you page. So yeah, so once I figured out that was it stopped throwing me and making me spooked. So I was able to go live quite happily. So I'm now going to see that, because when I go live on Facebook and absolutely nobody is shown my live. Nobody's shown my stuff generally. I mean, two people comment on most of my stuff on Facebook. It's just mad. One of them's the same person all the time. And so I'm going to try going live on YouTube. But one of the most interesting things of my week was a really old friend of mine contacted me, literally. I mean, 10 years, 15 years. We sort of like each other's things on Facebook and Instagram, but we haven't actually talked that much. And she just popped up on WhatsApp and said, "Oh, I'm moving to Spain in a couple of weeks, and I'm coming via Shoreham. Shall we have lunch?" And I was like, "Oh my God, what's happened?" Basically, her kids have all grown up, and she's decided that she's now going to try living abroad. She's going to a particular Spanish city, and she's moving on the 1st of August. And only literally that same week, another friend of mine who I've done a lot of work with in the past and been really friends with for a long time, he's moving to the same Spanish city on the same day.
No
Now,
way.
how weird is that? And I realised, and she sent me a picture of us both at Notting Hill Carnival when we were about 26. So we look so young, and it's so not nostalgic. It's poignant looking at your younger self and looking in your eyes of your younger self, and thinking, God, you've got no idea what's in store for you.
Bloody scary is what it is.
Yeah, it is. And I looked so happy and so optimistic and so like the world was my oyster, as young people do in photographs. And I just thought, oh, I wonder if you knew what was coming, would you still go for it? So I had quite a poignant evening. But then I woke up at 4:45 in the morning, and I might have told you this story. And I had this really strong compulsion to introduce these two people. And I literally, it's 4:45, I'm lying there, I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm not doing that now, because I knew I'd have to get up, because I knew I'd have to type introductions and tell them a bit about each other and give them a link to where they can go and watch each other online. And and which you can do nowadays, which is great. And but I couldn't get back to sleep again. And finally, at 5 o'clock, I gave up and got up and had a shower, because I knew if I sat at my computer even at five in the morning without having got dressed, I would be there at lunchtime still. I just, once I get into things, I get into the flow and I can't stop.
I know
And
what you.
so I introduced them by about, and they were both amazed to see me up that early. And but yeah, we made a WhatsApp group, and obviously I'm going to go and visit both of them now. There's two people in one city, you can't not, can you? But she came past this weekend, and my daughter, who Philippa, was around all the time that we were in London, and she was there pretty much nearly at the conception of my daughter, and pretty much at the birth, because I was having strawberries and champagne in Holland Park with her one day when my pain started. So yeah, so she was heavily involved. So my daughter came along as well. So we had a really, really good girly lunch catch up of everything that's happened for the last 28 years, really, which was
Wow.
really very life affirming. It was wonderful.
Yeah, and it's good to be able to pick up with people that you've known very intently for a period of time, then you've kind of drifted away, and then you can
Yeah,
pick up
yeah.
with them again. It's really interesting. I mean, I reached out, as I do a lot of driving, unfortunately, right now, which I hope to lessen, but it's still happening. I often think about things in the car, and
Yeah,
I
the
was just
car's
thinking
good.
about getting rid of some stuff because I have too much stuff. I wouldn't say I'm a hoarder, but I do have a lot of stuff. I like
You're a
collecting things.
collector, which is the
I'm a
next level
collector.
down.
I'm a collector, my dear. Yes, indeed. So I was driving along thinking, I really got to do something about all this stuff. And I just started thinking of a friend of mine who's on Facebook, who I haven't seen since I left university, really. But he's a vicar down in London, and we occasionally connect and such like. And he was very supportive of the recent campaign that I did. So I just reached out to him and said, "Hey, do you fancy having this stuff?" He said, I got no use to it, and I've got like things
All your
going
theology stuff.
that kind of things. I have like brand new clerical wear and stuff that I've never worn, that
Yeah.
type of thing. And just say, hey, do you want this kind of thing? It's like, oh, yes, yes. So I said, oh, I'm a bit concerned about how we'd get it delivered though. He says, don't worry, I'll come, I'll deliver it. We're going to have a catch up and a chat. It's like, yeah, excellent, let's do that. So yeah, it's
Awesome.
interesting how these things just happen like that, isn't it?
Well, he'd be a great person to talk to about what's going on in the world, wouldn't he? So to get
He's
his take on it,
he's very awake for a
is
vicar.
he? Yeah, excellent. So, well, that would be some good conversations to be had there, then, wouldn't there?
But he's one of these vicars, and I take my hat off to him. He is a community vicar. He's so involved with the community, and he's
Nice.
obviously it's in London, so you do get a bigger congregation. But he's always got stuff going on. He's got so many different outreach programs for the kids and the adults and choirs and all kinds of things going on. I
Oh,
mean, I
yeah,
don't know how he gets a moment to do anything, to be honest, because he's always got something on, which is
that's
fantastic.
amazing. Well, that's exactly how they should be, is right in the middle. I mean, in Greece, the priests are married for a start, and the Greek Orthodox Church lets them marry, and they're always out in the village, wandering around, having a chat, sitting down, playing, whatever it is they play in Greece with the old boys, and it's just really, really nice to see people as members of the community like that. But I don't think the energy goes away. I think if you're attracted to people, in fact, I did a couple of posts this week, one about intuition and one about authenticity, because they've measured people's energy auras, and what apparently the one emotion that you'd think would be the strongest energy giver offer is love, but actually it's authenticity, and people they can smell it a mile off. So the fact that my
That's
friend is
interesting.
just the same as she ever was.
That is very interesting. So, as you know, I've been listening to The Power recently by Rhonda Byrne, and that whole
I,
book
I did
about
I
love.
didn't know who she was until I looked her up. She's the woman who made the Secret film, isn't she?
She
Yeah,
is indeed, yeah.
much
Just,
maligned, but actually pretty good when you
I
understand a bit
mean,
more about it.
it's phenomenal, really. I mean, well, anything that's ahead of the time that people don't
Which it
understand
was, yeah.
is misaligned or maligned or however you call it. So it always happens, doesn't it? We
Mm.
could talk today about something so new, so exciting, it's going to revolutionize the world. Most people would write it off because it's just too much for them to take on board.
Yeah.
But yeah, in The Power, which I don't know if it's the second or the third book, I can't remember, but that
I
whole
haven't
book
read
is
that one.
about, it's all about love. It's essentially about the fact that, as human beings, we have one of two choices. We can do things that we love, or we can do things that we don't love. And that's in everything: relationships, money, work, career, health, everything. It's really, really interesting when you listen to it and you take it on board. So it's interesting that you've picked up on this kind of energy vibration as well, which she talks a lot about in that book. And you're seeing that authenticity is coming through, because I think the two do go hand in hand. And I don't think well, you definitely can't fake authenticity, and I don't think you can fake love either, really. It's very hard
No,
to do that.
no.
You often meet these people, don't you? And they have fake smiles and all this, and they're not smiling here, they're just smiling
Yeah.
there.
Dead behind the eyes. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting that you mentioned that, but
Yeah,
yeah.
but it was just and the wonderful thing was seeing my daughter and her interact, because obviously my daughter is actually pretty good at keeping in touch with people, and she's met Philippa properly, she'll be able to keep in touch with her, and that makes me feel good, because if anything happened to me, she'd have someone who was absolutely on the same wavelength as I am to talk to, and I sort of feel reassured by that. Although having said that, she didn't seem very clued up about anything that's been going on in the world. I think she's one of those people who just keeps her head down, gets on with her work, hangs out with her family, and that's the end of it. She seemed. We had a brief conversation about money, and she was recommending some women who formed a educational club for women. She seemed to forget that I had the money gym, which was exactly that many years ago.
Yeah.
And I tried to sort of casually mention, of course, I had the money gym and that got cancelled, by Google. And she was like, she didn't seem to sort of take that in at all. But she was recommending these people to me and to go and have a look at, as being really good about teaching women how to invest. And I laughed and I said, "Oh, so they're teaching you about gold and silver then, are they?" And she said, "Gold and silver? What? No." And I thought, oh, okay, so
Okay.
they're not. So they're really towing the party line on what to invest in. It's a bit like Martin, what's his name from
Lewis.
the Mail on Sunday, who teaches people
Ma-
how to pay down their debt and how to get the best prices for their insurance and stuff like that. So it's very institutional.
Is that Martin Lewis, the money saving
That's the
expert?
one, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
that's the one.
There is a lot of that happens, isn't there? Where you have people that are given a platform and they start talking, and it's because it's safe. They
Yes.
may occasionally challenge the institutions, let's say, on things like, say, gas and energy, which he did a lot of. But ultimately, just give him a little pat on the back and he'll crack on and just talk about safe stuff. I mean, can you imagine Martin Lewis getting on whatever program he's on BBC and start saying, well, you know what? The banks are in trouble, so everyone's got to get gold and silver now. It ain't ever going to happen in a million
No.
years.
You can't see him talking about. I've just ordered some of the what the government has done to our money books from Murray Rothbard.
It needs to be right in front of your face. I mean, we'll miss you for a moment, but there we go.
There we go. Yeah. It's a
Yeah.
tiny little book, and they give them away from free from the Mises Institute. So but you can get a PDF like right now and go skip the forward. The forward's really boring, but once it gets into the story of money and what is really going on and how the governments literally create money out of our debt, it gets really quite a lot more interesting. But I still think the best thing to find out about money is The Hidden Secrets of Money by Mike Maloney on YouTube. It's just phenomenal. So I
Great.
sent her a link to
Yeah.
that, and we'll see if she actually picks up on it. But it was actually quite a relief to be out with someone who didn't know about the dark forces and what's going on in the world. And I thought I would feel like a fish out of water, because I wasn't able to talk about any of the stuff that we know about. And I didn't feel like that at all. I came away feeling refreshed and energized. And that must be something to do with her energy, because it was very enjoyable.
Yeah, and I think there are some people that just kind of drift through life and they're not really focused at all on what's going on outside them. They're in their own internal bubble, which is
Yeah.
helpful in one degree and not so helpful in another degree. But do you not also think that maybe it's because of the fact that there are a certain number of people that are awakening up to certain things that are going on, but in reality, the vast majority of people are really still asleep. And I'd kind of, you know, I'd kind of say that in terms of, not that I wish to hark on about Reform UK forever, but I'll talk about it a little bit. The 4 million votes that were received from, I don't know how many votes there was in total, maybe 25 million or so, whatever it was, but it's still, it's only about 15% of the vote of people that voted. So if you take that 80-20 rule, which typically does kind of work itself out,
Yeah,
there's
Pareto
only going to be
principle.
20% of people that are even awake at some level to think, actually, you know what? Those policies are good, so I should vote for them. And I think it maybe is the same in life too, where 20% of people are actually thinking, well, hang on a minute, why is this happening? Why is that happening? When it's cloudy
Well,
outside, they're just thinking, oh, the weather's bad today. They're not thinking
well,
someone's spraying them.
in a week where it hit Twitter big time that the weather geoengineering was admitted by the BBC. I mean, it really was this week. And the other thing that happened this week that might be waking a lot of people up is that Olympic ceremony, opening ceremony. I mean, that bloke with his parts hanging out below his costume. I mean, what was going on with that?
I mean, the Olympics I always find a difficult one in the sense of, you give artistic directors essentially free rein to do what they like to some
Yeah,
extent. And then there's a whole load of conspiracy theories that come out about it. And sometimes I just think it's just crazy people just doing crazy stuff because they've been given a budget and just say, get on with it. You and I both know, because we've worked in events and various things over the years,
yeah,
that if you've got, say, entertainment in place of some description, this is what that is. You just say, look, that's the budget, just crack on with it. You're not really focused on that part of it because you're focused on the organization of the Olympics,
yeah.
making sure the games happen, this, that, and the other. So sometimes I just think it's people that have got too big budgets, too much power, just doing their little thing because they can. And I mean, I've seen so many different things on X and Facebook about it, about all of the random things that went on and the whole front to the Last Supper and this, that, and the other. So many people getting so irate about this, that, and the other. And I didn't really watch much of it. I saw a snippet, 3 or 4 minutes, with them wandering down the Seine in the pouring rain, which I thought was hilarious.
They
In
had the
terms
white horse galloping down the Seine. They had the recreation of the Last Supper, but inverted. Every element of it was inverted. And one of those people at the Last Supper was standing there literally with a bollock hanging out of his costume in full view of all the children. It was just, ridiculous. Well, it was all about devil worship and Satanism again. And you remember the last Olympics, that it was before the last Olympic was 2019, wasn't it? But all of the symbology of the opening ceremony was all around COVID. They even had representations of the COVID virus, not that it's ever been isolated, but they had actual visual representations of it in the opening ceremony of the Olympics, and that was a year before COVID. So how was that all about artistic expression? I don't think it was. Anyway, that was my first conspiracy theory of the day.
I'm going to
So
go with
what?
you on that, Nicola.
All right, then I'll be the conspiracy theorist of the team, and you can be the more sensible, level-headed person. So, what's your topic of this week then? What do you want to have? What do you want to have a chat about?
So, the topic of the week that I thought would be interesting to just chat about is a great song by Aretha Franklin called Respect, Respect.
Yeah. Okay.
And just because I feel that there's so many things going on right now in the world that we just seem to have lost all sense of what that word means and how it works in normal day-to-day society. And obviously, with various news articles coming out, and often they're very negative in view, there just seems to be a whole disintegration of societal controls, norms, and I think respect has a lot to do with it. And obviously, that starts both in the home. It also starts at local level. It also starts at government level, and it also comes into play in terms of different cultures. And I just feel that it's an interesting place that we're in right now in terms of the stage of what's happening, because a lot of these issues that are being caused because of lack of respect in whatever way that may be. And I think that's been illustrated yet again this week with issues at Manchester Airport, with, only one side of a story being told about what seems to be a very inflamed issue caused by people in a certain culture slapping other people of a certain culture, and then, enforcement agencies getting involved, and so on and so forth. But yeah, the whole point about, I think, this topic is that I don't know if you're seeing it yourself as well, but it just seems that we've lost it. Uh, People don't seem to be thinking about anyone else apart from themselves. There are still people out there, of course, and we meet them, but a lot of people are just, I can't really describe it in a way, but it just seems to be getting worse.
Yeah, it's interesting because, as you say, it starts in the home. And I have always brought my children. I was brought up to be very respectful. My mother wouldn't tolerate any rudeness or, being impolite or being ungrateful for things, or which in some ways was draconian, because we were never allowed to show any feelings at all. And I sort of have a similar feeling about what you're talking about there, because yes, a lot of people, and I'm not even going to get into the other culture thing, but a lot of people don't seem to have any respect for other people's feelings, or maybe they have too much respect for feelings of certain people and not in any respect for feelings of other people. But the other thing is that this thing of respect is so ingrained into us as children and as at school, or to act as if you have respect, which is a different thing again. But it's also used to control us, isn't it? Because I find it, a lot of people find it very, very difficult to speak up about things. And even I'm known as outspoken, but I have to gird my loins to get into any kind of confrontation or conflict, or a situation where I know that the other person is not going to feel the same as I do. And in fact, I've been grappling with it a bit, because I grew up, I've realized that there are huge gaps in my children's education, huge, and I feel personally responsible for that, because I didn't realize that they weren't being taught stuff at school. I didn't realize they weren't being taught that they are sovereign human beings and that they have a right to be here on the planet, and that, and that they have a right to speak freely, which now is manifesting itself in the fact that within our family, I don't have a right to speak freely because I might upset the feelings of some other people in the family. And that seems to be that the person who is making other people feel uncomfortable, whether that's because you're speaking about something that makes them feel anxious, or whether it's you're saying something that other people don't believe, you just get shunned. So there's an ostracization. Is that a word?
Yeah. Yeah.
A natural ostracizing of the uncomfortable, the person who makes other people feel uncomfortable. And it takes quite a lot to resist that. It takes quite a lot to not care about that. So where is the respect of my family members for my opinions and for my right to free speech? It doesn't exist. It's not there. So while we're all, pussyfooting around each other and being super polite, we're not actually respecting people's right to express what they're thinking.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting that you say that, because I kind of started from this, discussion point thinking about more of the physical things, and you're coming into it more from the emotional side of things, which is really interesting in terms of having these discussions, because this is why we have them. Because I was approaching it from the point of view of so many things are happening that I see and think, well, really, things like dropping litter, parking over two disabled bays when you shouldn't,
I hate all that stuff. Yeah.
parking on double yellow lines because you're too lazy to go 3, meters down the road or whatever. These kind of things, which are not necessarily about the emotive side and listening to people, but they do impact on society as a whole.
Well, I think they come from a lack of empathy, don't they? I mean, there seems to be
Yeah.
a certain growing portion of the population who doesn't seem to have any empathy at all. like you say, no respect for other people's feelings or convenience or rights.
Yeah. Yeah, and I'm just, kind of wondering out loud how we kind of get back to having some semblance of that because, obviously gone now are the kind of pre-war days from, the 50s. We're in a completely different generation now. We've gone through that whole kind of summer loving thing in the 60s. And then, in the 80s, we had all the, new tech coming into play. And now we're in such an interconnected world that you'd think that people will be more aware of these things because of the fact they can pick up a phone and there's multiple things going on, but at the same time they don't seem to be. And it's just little things, which are probably things that just annoy me, but and I don't go to McDonald's very often, but every now and then when I'm traveling, I do. And people they have a meal and they just leave their tray there and wander out. And
Yeah,
it's like
I couldn't do
there's
it.
a bin. There's a bin there. And sorry, maybe I'm sounding like an angry old man now, but I mean
Yeah.
seriously, there's a bin. Just put it
I
in the
couldn't.
bin.
I couldn't do it. I have to pick it up, and I always taught the children to do that as well. I mean, there's a larger issue in the fact that I've just seen a video where someone poured molten lava, well, molten. I can't remember what it was, molten metal over a McDonald's meal, and it didn't touch it, so it didn't burn or anything.
I'm
So
not
there's,
recommending it. There are other alternative outlets out there, as the BBC say. But anyhow, I'm just saying that it's one of those things that you just see happening, and it's
yeah, no,
it's
it's
just
it
it's
is.
getting more prevalent. And I'm not really wishing for the government to come down heavy-handed, but I'm just
No.
posing it out there as a question to people about what can we do as citizens to embody that level of respect to other people and also get that message out to more people
But,
because
but equally, I feel that we need to become less respectful because it's only by less respectful to figures of authority because now we know the levels of corruption in government and the legal system and all that stuff and how it's all been set up for the benefit of the few at the top, not the rest of us. I think there are certain things we need to be less respectful of because if we're too respectful, when they come along with the next lockdowns or whatever they're planning for Asian avian flu or whatever it's called, then we're going to be the respectful people will be the ones who are lining up at the blooming centres to get it all again.
yeah.
So I think a healthy lack of respect for authority is very much needed, and the more people that wake up to that fact, the better. But you're right, we need to be respectful of each other. So perhaps it's not a respect looking up, but we need to be respectful of people on a level with us and lower.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's what I'm saying. It's just being aware of others and not being this completely kind of selfish, narcissistic kind of I'm just here and it's just me and I'm just doing my
Yeah.
stuff. That's fine, but you live in a society and society has these kind of things going on, which some of which we may agree with, some of which we don't. For instance, a particular bugbear of mine is traffic wardens, and I detest them with a passion, but that's another thing
Yes. Well,
entirely.
they're illegal as well in some cases. I mean,
It, it,
I live somewhere where there's a private car park out of the back, but the people who live in the flats can't park there, or they're going to get a parking fine.
yeah, I mean, we do have obviously those kind of issues. I agree, but yeah, I'm just saying respect is something we need to think about. I think
Is it respect or is it consideration?
Well, I think it goes hand in hand. I just used it because it's a great song.
Oh, I see. A lead in, a good
Yeah,
segue, as they
precisely.
call it in
Yeah,
radio.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, it could be an element of consideration too, and just being aware of us, because I do feel that certainly with these kind of things nowadays, the phones, people are in a little relationship with their phone more than they often are with other people.
Yeah.
And because of that, they're kind of losing that connectivity with other people, empathy with other people, understanding other people, because it's just about them and their little phone. So, yeah, that was just something I wanted to bring to the party this week.
Very good.
What
Okay.
about
Well,
you?
yeah. Well, I'm getting more and more into AI, as you know. I rejected it wholeheartedly at the beginning because I was like, oh, it's going to lose, lots of people are going to lose their jobs and all that stuff. And then I got to the point of, well, okay, but I might as well use it in the meantime before the human race rises up and gets rid of all computers like they did in the movie June. But it really is astonishing what it can do now. And I think I've been firing bits at you, and you've been playing with it a little bit as well, haven't you? But it's while the rise of AI is getting higher, there are other things that are modern that are falling by the wayside, which are quite encouraging. There's been 2 Swedish companies gone out of business this week. There's one called Tabrito, which is one that was trying to make mealworms into flour and all stuff like that, and into different kinds of foodstuffs. And they've gone bust. And
What
the
a
other
shame.
one is there's a Swedish fake meat company that's gone bust.
What a
And
shame.
also and also lots of the car companies are closing down their electric vehicle divisions because they're not profitable. I know they're not profitable, and the batteries just keep bursting into flames. And I think that people are starting to people are starting to realize that you've got an electric car, but it has to be charged up from electric, and the electric has to be generated by something. So they're not as green as everyone thinks they are.
Absolutely. I mean, unless you've got, say, solar panels, which obviously, have an energy that has to be put into them to be made, with a 20-year shelf life, unless you've got sunny days, which let me check. Yep, there's blue sky today. It's all right out in.
We're being given a weekend by these
if you've got a bit of blue sky, fine. But in winter, you're not going to get your car charged up, particularly as the cars often charge up overnight, unless you obviously have a battery, which costs as much as, or if not more than the solar panels to begin with. So it is interesting. And I think it's interesting as well that governments are so out of touch with actually what is happening, because they just have this little kind of agenda going on, particularly like the UK government, which I'm sure we could talk about for hours on end, and their complete and utter incompetence.
They've got no idea, have they?
Just delirious, At the moment in the UK, the previous ban of petrol and diesel cars was 2035 that the Tories have put in. I believe now Labour is in on 2030. They are deluded.
Yeah, deluded. It can't happen.
Given the car manufacturers, sorry to interrupt, given the car manufacturers, like you say, are actually pulling out of that market because it's so costly, it's so expensive, and people don't want them, then what do you think is going to happen? Well, everyone's going to be running around in classics, aren't they? I mean, I'd love to just get a Land Rover from the 50s and just poodle about in that. No electrics in it. It's just, you
that's can't right. So you can fix it endlessly.
Down, just carry on fixing it, that type of thing. But, these...
Even Tesla. I mean, even Tesla are now talking about stopping their focus on... obviously, he can't do it all of a sudden, but he's started talking about focusing on robotics and AI more than electric cars going forward.
Yeah, I mean, they've certainly got a huge share of the market, haven't they? And Elon is not a silly lad. He knows what's going on, and he can see what's going on. But do you not also think this other thing that is kind of being dampened down in the media, which again infuriates me, and it's because of this narrative they're trying to push, which is the issue around electric batteries actually being dangerous.
Oh yeah, that was a video going around on Twitter about that guy who getting in the lift with his electric bike.
Precisely, yeah. His little battery for electric bike, entire lift on fire. I mean, did the guy die? I can't remember. I mean, it's horrendous.
Yeah.
And then you have, was it last year we had in Luton Airport a huge fire that took out about 1,500 vehicles, and the media just reported it as, a Land Rover set on fire. They didn't mention the Land Rover was a hybrid. It had an electric battery in it, and it basically set on fire. Now, you've always got that thing, haven't you, with capitalism, where people rush things to market. It's not tested thoroughly enough, and there will be defects. But when you've got defects as badly as that can literally kill people, you have to kind of think, well, hang on a minute.
All those school buses with school children on that could go up at any minute because they're all electric now.
Yeah, but do you really want to be going to a car park anywhere and thinking, well, am I parking next to an electric car? Could that electric car actually just set on fire? I mean, I don't know.
I've got to say, I don't sit at the back of the bus anymore when I use public transport. I sit right at the front.
I mean, I actually think electric vehicles now should have a big red sticker or something on them so you can avoid them. I think that'd be great.
Yeah,
Park as far away from them as you can. Just crack on. You all go and park together, and if you set on fire, then whatever.
yeah, yeah. It's all
But,
good.
but
So,
getting back to your AI thing, what is
oh
it
yeah, let's
that's
talk about that for a
intriguing?
while.
What is it that's intriguing you at the moment in terms of AI and just how you feel it's helpful to people?
Well,
And
as a creative person, I rejected it and resisted it because but then I realized that everything that it produced didn't feel like it had a soul. And so what I've done since then is I've started working with a new business coach, and he's really, really good with it. He breaks it down into smaller chunks. I was trying to be too big picture with it, and he is helping me create a structure that supports me to be more creative without doing the drudge work. And the drudge work was the work that I wasn't ever going to do because I'm a creative person and creative people don't like drudge work. So what I'm using it for is to create structures of flow in my creative creation content creation process that enables me to go deeper into the things I wouldn't have done, like research, quicker, because it's, it has to be quick for me. But then it enables me to bring out my creativity and stamp that on top of the basic structure that the AI gives me.
yeah,
So, for example, I'll give you a concrete example. I've used AI to create a persona of my ideal client. So we've had a conversation. I've told it all about my ideal client. It's asked me lots of questions about my ideal client, and it now can take on the persona of my ideal client whenever I want to talk to it or ask it questions. And then what I said was, okay, so tell me the top sort of 7 things that is keeping my ideal client up at night, and then give me blog post topics that I could write about or speak about on YouTube for each of those 7 problems, because I work on a weekly cycle, so that it's better
yeah,
to work on sevens. Now, topic creation and thinking up topics is so hard when you're an expert in something, because you've seen it all before and you're bored of it almost.
yeah,
So
yeah,
so what it did was it makes me look at things fresh from the eyes of my client, my potential ideal future client. And then what it did was I said, okay, so I want to create a blog post around each of these topics. I want it to have 1,000 words at the beginning, talking, opening the topic, giving some key points about the topic, and then concluding. I want 3 book recommendations about this topic, and I want 5 practical steps that the client could take. Because I'm trying to make this blog post give value as well. And I also want them to be keyword rich, but they will be naturally keyword rich. So you don't need to stuff them with keywords. What I ended up with was about 5 weeks worth of blog posts. But then I went in, and as I'm adding those blog posts to my blog, now hold that thought, I'm going in and I'm adding personal stories, and I'm changing the book recommendations if I think there's a better book than the one it suggested. So it's gone off and it's gone through Amazon and it's looked for all the best books on that topic.
yeah,
But if I know, because I've read millions of business books, probably millions, literally, I know if there's a better book.
yeah.
So it's enabling me to bring my expertise and my experience and my creativity to that piece of work. But the grunt work was done by the AI. Now, this is the exciting bit. I'm just about to learn how to hook. There's a thing called Zapier. I don't know if you've ever heard of it.
I
It
do.
used
Yes.
to enable bits of software to talk to each other. It's a bit old
Yeah.
and clunky. It's a bit old and clunky now. But there's a thing called make.com, which is like
Yeah.
a super, super sophisticated Zapier, which you're able to make workflows in make.com. So, for example, you can tell your AI to scan the news for anything to do with entrepreneurship, which is my sort of topic of choice. Then you can then say to it to create a blog post out of the news item and slant the blog post to the interests of your ideal client, which it's got a
Yeah.
document on file about, and then to create the blog post, to make a picture depicting the blog post from using Midjourney or DALL-E, I think it's called. And then you can get it to actually automatically post the blog post onto your blog. and then it can either publish straight away or you hold it for approval for your approval.
Yeah.
Now, that is absolutely astonishing because anyone who's got a blog knows how hard it is to fill it up with content. For example, the Dale blog. You probably don't have a blog on the Dale website, but you could do.
The Gale, yes.
The Gale, I'm so sorry, the Gale, yes.
We do, but yes, it's very hard.
Oh, right,
But
okay. So
I was just going to say to you before because I can tell you're very excited about this topic. So to me, from what you've told me, it seems as though, in essence, what you're doing is essentially what all great editors do, is you're curating exceptional content from a variety of different sources. Because let's face it, AI is taking this information from all over the web and then putting it into something. Yeah. And what you're doing is you're bringing your expertise because of the fact that you know this subject, and you're curating these articles to personalize them, add in the stories, change the books. So you're really getting the best of the best, because you're not having to sit down and think, oh, what am I going to write about this week? Because that is the toughest thing in the world to do. But you're being given in it. And it's almost like you've got, 5 or 6 writers working for you, giving you this stuff.
Researchers and writers.
Yes, indeed. So, I mean, it's for content creators, I can see how it's a game changer completely.
Yeah.
Completely. For the normal man coming on the street, that's where it comes a bit more tricky.
Okay, so my goal now is, because I want to create a one-day workshop that will teach business owners how to use AI, how to how to get the basics. And once you that it's all in the prompt, it's all in the telling the AI what to do and how to tell it to do things. So once they've got the basics, then it'll be a one-day workshop. So they'll come, they'll learn a bit about what it can do, this bit it can do, and how it could benefit them. Then they'll actually get given the prompt and they'll be sent off to work on that themselves. And it'll be a Zoom, it'll be like a virtual workshop. And I haven't wanted to do a new workshop since, well, it's got to be 10 years, because I've just got so bored of going over the same topics all the time. But this, I can see, would be incredibly helpful for people, and to do it from their homes as well. And then they come back and ask questions. I'm there all the time, by the way, so they can ask questions at any time. And then we come back and we do the next bit, and then we do the next bit. So by the end of the day, they've actually got a thorough understanding of how it could benefit their business, and an actual working process to do, as well as someone to ask questions of any time. So, so give me an example of your average person, and let's see if we can come up with some ideas for how they could use AI to make their life better.
Well, right now?
Yeah, God, I dare you. I love this. I love these challenges.
Yeah. Well, I was just about to say, I was just disappointed it wasn't going to be in person by the sea, and we'd have tea and cakes in the afternoon. But fair enough, I can see it's going to be an online program, so that's great. Anyhow, the average person. I mean, look, I'll give you an example from something I did just earlier, just because I'm taking my daughter out for something later on. And we're going to a particular place. So I went onto AI and thought, I'll just use some of those prompts that Nicola keeps talking about. And I just said, look, I'm going to this place. My daughter's this age. He has this interests. What kind of things are going to be there that we can look at? And it gave me like 5 suggestions.
Absolutely brilliant. There you go.
And obviously, I could have found out myself by going into Google or DuckDuckGo or, one of the browsers you like to use, and putting in things to do. But it wouldn't necessarily be as quick or as pain-free as just typing a prompt. Yeah. So, I think if I think of a business owner, so let's say there's a business owner, they've got a little retail shop and they sell, let's say, craft products. They're in a touristy town, so they get tourists coming in and out, but it's quite quiet in the off season. So how could AI help them to, say, get more customers consistently coming through the door?
Okay, well, if you've got a real life business and you want actual real life people coming through the door, it's all about the experience. So you've got to make your shop a destination, an experience destination. That's what it's got to be. So, for example, we had a Harry Potter shop in Brighton that was absolutely amazing, and all the grown-ups would secretly go in there and buy a wand,
Yeah, there's one in York called The Shop That Must Not Be Named. It's
Yeah,
wonderful.
nice, nice. Yeah, so I would be asking AI how I can make my shop a destination experience based on the kind of craft toys I sell. The other thing I would be doing is I would be asking AI how I can create an online store,
Yeah,
because that's what really kept a lot of businesses going through the lockdowns, was having,
yeah,
and a lot of them got online very quickly. They didn't see that they had to up to that point, but then suddenly they did. And AI is it's the thing about selling anything online is about creating attention in a niche of people who now know who you are and what you do.
yeah.
And that's where AI would help you create a website. It would help you get yourself onto Etsy or whatever, or what's the other one? Etsy, I think, is for crafts. And that's
eBay,
where
yeah, that kind
yeah.
of thing. Yeah,
So again, you would use AI as your business mentor in taking yourself online while simultaneously turning your little shop into a destination experience, whether that's by adding, like the coffee shops did in the is it 80s, they started putting sofas in bookshops so you could get a
yeah,
decent cup of coffee and things
yeah.
like that. It's all about thinking about how can I make my shop a destination experience.
So, a final question for you then on AI, because I know we could talk about this forever, but we
Yeah, we
should.
could, yeah.
Uh, so, do you think AI is at the stage where it's going to be one of those things that's typically more known as being a business orientated and a business skill? And do you think you're going to start seeing adverts shortly for, like, let's say, AI prompt programmers or AI strategists or whatever within
I
companies who
You're
are
going to start seeing them. Yeah.
specifically focused for that, or as an alternative, and with, do you think it's going to be something that is going to be more prevalent where people have got it on their phones and it's almost becoming a little like personal assistant VA on their phone to help them with day-to-day tasks, such as being a super advanced version of, let's say, Siri, where it is really trying to help organize their day? I mean, do you think either of those are going to happen?
I think both. I mean, as soon as you get off this call, you're going to start seeing ads. When you go to YouTube, for example, you're going to start seeing videos being suggested to you for people who will teach you how to use AI in your business.
Well, of
I mean,
course, 'cause my phone listens to me all the time.
I
That's
know,
what I'm going to put
I
in
know.
another room next time so it doesn't.
Yeah, and I'm seeing hundreds of those ads already on Instagram and on Twitter and on YouTube where I go. But the thing is, yes, to think of it as a concierge for your life is a really good thing for the average person, because the average person's not going to know how AI can help them, although they are seeing it all the time. Every time you go to a website and that little thing pops up in the corner saying, "How can we help you?" That's AI, and you're talking to a bot. If you go to Google now and when you start typing and that drop down menu comes of what other people are typing, that's AI. It's been in our lives for about 10 years, but we haven't realized it. And
Yeah.
I think the thing to do, I mean, my daughter is working at a big energy company, but but she likes it. But she says, it's all about using AI, and it helps her because she's a really bright kid, but she's not very good on the old writing. Then none of them are very good on reading, writing, and spelling, are they, anymore? And grammar goes right out the window. So AI is writing her emails for her and making sure that her personal tone comes across, because she's a very, personable person with a good sense of humor. So it's learning who she is and it's writing her emails in her style, but making sure there aren't any howling misspellings and and grammatical errors in it. So
Yeah.
I think it's just you've got to learn to live with it and embrace it and see how it can help you in your life or your business, I think.
Brilliant. So, if there was, say, a place where people could go just to learn something, anything, just the basics, is there anywhere? I mean,
Yeah.
do you have anything on your blogs that people could go and look at? Because I think it is an interesting topic that people are aware of, but they don't necessarily know where to start next.
I'd
Just
start on
giving us the
YouTube.
opportunity, Nicola.
No, I mean, I would genuinely start on YouTube. If you just type in, AI basics for whatever you want, like the craft shop, or AI basics for whatever, you'll start coming across people, and it's not worth me trying to teach people the basics. It's much more worth me trying to teach business owners how to integrate it into their content marketing,
Sure.
particularly because it's
Yeah.
already gone past the basic stage. It's much
Yeah.
better to look at the elevated specific levels of help that certain people need. That's where I'd be. Yeah.
Cool.
Exciting times. It's made a massive difference to my life because I don't have to wake up on Monday morning and think, God, what am I going to write about this week or
And
speak
that's why
about?
you get so many blogs out. I'm always impressed by every day I get an email. I've got to do a blog post, and I think, how the hell does Nicola do this? Now I know the secret.
Well, that's another bit of automation, isn't it? I've set it up so that my blog RSS feed goes into my customer relationship management software and sends out a little email saying new blog post. or it's annoying depending on what you like, but if you're interested in the things that I'm interested in, it's a nice reminder of that I'm there every day.
Yeah, I agree.
And that when you're ready, Matthew, I'm there to help.
Indeed.
So what are you up to this coming week then?
This coming week, so I'm dealing with this refurb that should be finished this week, ready to get out and let. I forgot to mention that we had a little get together last week of some supporters from the Reform UK campaign, and that was very good actually. We had about 25 people.
All the people who are doing your leaflets and things.
Yeah, mainly a few new people, but mainly people. Just had a little chat and a drink, and far too much food. You always run this risk, don't you, when you ask the hotel to put on a buffet, how much food they end up bringing. It's just, oh my word.
And then the person who organises it has to take it all home, don't they?
I literally couldn't. There was so much. There was quite a bit left over, but thankfully they have chickens, and they said the chickens are going to have a wonderful meal tomorrow. We'll take out some of the meat and stuff, but they're going to enjoy this food. so I'm fine with that. But yeah, I had a lot of feedback from that meeting in terms of people wanting to get involved, doing various things. Had a little questionnaire, gave people in terms of how they could get involved going forward. And obviously, it is part of a longer campaign now over the next 5 years for local and general elections to get people in place. So, I've got to do a bit of work on that this week.
Well, you've already seen that AI can pull stuff locally of certain topics and put it on your Facebook page automatically, can't you? So, because it's not just about blogging, it's about putting stuff on your Facebook page, your Instagram account, and I mean, video's different. I think you should do something once a week, video-wise, that we share out. But
yeah, I'm aiming to do that because of internet-related issues. I wasn't able to do that, but hopefully later today or whenever tomorrow I'll get something out. And then I think the other thing I'm going to be focusing on is just working through this kind of consultancy.
I'm excited to hear about that. We must talk about that offline because
I'm just working through that and just looking at the aim, the thrust, the package, the program, all that kind of stuff.
Excellent. And I'll see if there's a way you can share books in your Kindle. I could make you one of my family, couldn't I, and share that book, $1 Million Consulting, with you?
Probably. Yeah,
because I haven't got anyone else in my family because I don't read.
Fair enough. Great. Next thing you know, I'll be on your sofa.
Hilarious.
Saying, come on, get me a cup of tea.
Get me a cup of tea, yeah. Well, this week I'm going to master make.com because it's not that easy to use. And the other thing I want to master is chatbots. I want to master ManyChat because ManyChat's a way. I think email marketing is dying a slow death, and I really do think that you talk about my emails going out every day, but I think that my list isn't growing. So what I want to do is master the chatbot thing, so that if people see a video on Facebook or Instagram and they drop a comment if they want to know more, because they're not going to go and look up my URL and come to my website. People don't do that anymore. They expect to be able to have what they want, the information they want, delivered to them where they are. So that's what I'm trying to master, is how to make it so that they can get that.
That sounds like you're going to have a wild and wicked week getting on.
A brain expanding week.
Yeah, I've used ManyChat in the past, and it was good back then, but that was before AI kicked off. And obviously, you did share very kindly that new piece of software with me weeks ago, which I did nothing with. But I looked at it for, wow, this looks cool. So
what was that?
The made.com whatever it is.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Make.com. Yeah.
Still got it open in the original tab you sent me many weeks ago, and I've yet to get into it.
Really,
But I'll wait for you to tell me what to do.
Wait for me to find the easy, quick way to do it, because that's
Definitely.
what I focus on, the easy, quick way to do things. Cool. All right. Well, we'll hopefully be able to talk again next week. And thank you very much for finding an alternative venue where the internet works.
You're welcome. And remember, if you're listening to this, please do subscribe and like the content, because that will make sure that other people also get to see and like the content, not just us. Thank you.
Yes, it tells the algorithm who might like us. And we all want to be liked, don't we?
Indeed, yes. Particularly in today's climate, it's very welcome.
Having a bit of affection never hurts.
Yeah.
All right, brilliant. Speak to you soon, Matthew.
Bye.